Ulysses S. Grant, one of the most successful generals in U.S. history, yet for years, his leadership was a mystery. How did this quiet, humble man rise to become the commander who won the Civil War for the Union? And what shocking leadership secrets did he use to lead his troops to victory? In today's video, we're diving deep into Grant's tactics, the decisions that changed the course of history, and how his leadership style still echoes through modern military strategy. Stick with me, because you won't believe what we're about to uncover. Grant is often remembered for his victories, Vicksburg, Chattanooga, and of course, Appomattox. But how did he get there? What made Grant the leader that turned the tide of the Civil War? The truth is, Grant wasn't just a brilliant military strategist, he had some shocking leadership secrets that made him stand out among his contemporaries. Today, we're peeling back the layers to reveal the hidden tactics and decisions that made Grant a true military mastermind. Grant wasn't a man who believed in easy victories. In fact, his ability to keep pushing forward despite setbacks was perhaps his greatest asset. While other generals faltered after facing defeat, Grant saw failure not as an end, but as a stepping stone. Consider his time at the Battle of Shiloh, one of the bloodiest engagements of the war. After the Union forces were caught off guard and nearly driven back, many expected Grant to retreat. But he didn't. Instead, he famously said, "I propose to fight it out on this line if it takes all summer." And fight he did. Despite heavy losses, he didn't back down, turning the tide of the battle and ultimately securing a hard-fought victory. That determination became a cornerstone of his leadership style. But here's the secret. Grant's resilience wasn't just about stubbornness, it was a tactical decision. He understood that every battle, no matter how tough, was part of a bigger picture. His persistence wore down not only the enemy, but also his own soldiers, who started to believe that no matter what, Grant wouldn't let them fail. Now, let's talk about Grant's strategy, because this is where things get interesting. Unlike many generals of the time who relied on traditional, formal tactics, Grant was known for thinking outside the box. He didn't follow conventional wisdom. Instead, he focused on what worked, no matter how unorthodox. Take the siege of Vicksburg. While other Union generals failed to capture the fortress city for months, Grant's genius lay in cutting off the enemy's supply lines and putting the Confederates in a position where they had no choice but to surrender. He surrounded Vicksburg and made sure that no reinforcements could get in or out. It wasn't about brute force, it was about creating a strategic chokehold. The result? Vicksburg fell without a single major battle being fought inside the city. This wasn't just luck, this was Grant's unconventional thinking in action. His ability to adapt and abandon rigid military doctrines set him apart from the rest, and it worked time and again. Grant's leadership wasn't just about strategy, it was also about leading from the front. Unlike many generals who remained behind the lines, Grant was often found on the battlefield, in the thick of the fighting with his troops. And that was a crucial part of his success. The soldiers loved him for it. They saw Grant not as a distant commander barking orders from afar, but as a leader who was willing to risk everything alongside them. At the Battle of the Wilderness, Grant faced brutal conditions, rain, dense fog, and relentless Confederate forces. But he was there, right alongside his men, leading charges and sharing in their hardships. His presence made a huge difference in morale. Grant understood that true leadership wasn't about issuing orders from behind a desk, it was about being with your people when the going gets tough. He knew that when your soldiers see you putting yourself at risk, they'll follow you through hell. Grant's greatest strength wasn't just his physical presence on the battlefield, it was his ability to understand the psychology of war. He knew that to win, it wasn't just about defeating the enemy, it was about breaking their will to fight. This was never more apparent than in his relentless pursuit of Robert E. Lee. Unlike other Union generals who hesitated to engage Lee's army head-on, Grant wasn't afraid of taking losses if it meant wearing down the Confederate forces. He engaged Lee in a series of grueling battles, refusing to let up until Lee had nothing left to give. But Grant didn't just know how to deal with the enemy, he also understood his own army's psychology. He knew that his soldiers were weary, often outnumbered, and sometimes disheartened. So, he made sure they knew that victory was always within reach. His leadership was a constant balancing act between pushing his men to their limits and providing them with the motivation to keep going. One of the most shocking secrets of Grant's leadership was his ability to block out the noise, especially the political pressures that were constantly on him. While other generals were often swayed by political maneuvering, Grant kept his focus squarely on the task at hand, defeating the Confederacy. Take, for instance, his relationship with President Abraham Lincoln. While many military leaders struggled with the political demands placed on them, Grant knew how to work with Lincoln without letting politics influence his decisions on the battlefield. Lincoln trusted Grant's judgment, and that trust allowed Grant to make bold decisions without second-guessing himself. In a time when politics often interfered with military strategy, Grant's ability to cut through the noise was a major factor in his success. So, what made Ulysses S. Grant such a remarkable leader? It wasn't just his strategic brilliance, it was his relentless persistence, his unconventional tactics, and his ability to inspire his troops by leading from the front. It was his psychological acumen in understanding both his enemy and his soldiers. And above all, it was his ability to keep his focus, no matter the political pressure, no matter the obstacles. Grant's leadership is a study in perseverance, adaptability, and the power of leading by example. His legacy proves that sometimes the most unconventional leaders can bring about the greatest victories. But here's the question: could Grant's leadership secrets still be applied today? Could we learn something from his approach to leadership in our own lives? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.